What are the administrative committees at General Conference, and what do they do? Great question. In this video, I explain what the 7 administrative committees are, who is elected to them, and the important roles that they play at General Conference. In my experience, several of the administrative committees have played critical roles at the General Conferences that I have attended. It's a good idea to know what they control and how they operate. General Conference has the following administrative committees: Agenda and Calendar, Correlation and Editorial Revision, Courtesies and Privileges, Credentials, Journal, Presiding Officers, and Reference. The Council of Bishops appoints members to the administrative committees prior to General Conference. Members of all committees except the Committee on Correlation and Editorial Revision are chosen from the elected General Conference delegates. Most of the committees have 12 elected members, 1 delegate from each Central Conference and jurisdiction. The Committee on the Journal has 3 members. The Committee on Correlation and Editorial Revision has 8 members and 2 alternates. The Committee on Reference has 24 members, 2 from each Central Conference and jurisdiction. The Committee on Agenda and Calendar guides the order of business at General Conference, including scheduling legislation for discussion and vote in plenary, as well as adding any new matters to the agenda. The committee tracks legislation coming out of legislative committees, including which items are on a consent calendar and which need further discussion in plenary. The committee then orders the pending legislation based on global relevance, financial impact, and other factors. The order of debate can make a difference. An early discussion and vote on one item can affect how the plenary considers later petitions on the same topic. In addition, although General Conference is now required to vote on all legislation that a legislative committee recommended for adoption, time could run short by the end of General Conference. Right before adjournment, an omnibus motion could be made to deal with all remaining petitions at once. The committee consults with the legislative committee chairpersons and the presiding bishops on each day's business. Given the consultative relationship between this committee and the legislative committee chairpersons, members of the Committee on Agenda and Calendar may not serve as chairpersons in their legislative committees. The Committee on Correlation and Editorial Revision reviews legislation for errors, such as contradictions, duplications, and inconsistencies. It reports any errors to the relevant legislative committees or to General Conference. If 2 items are passed that conflict with each other, the committee has a process to determine which legislation prevails. After General Conference, the committee participates in editing the Book of Discipline based on the legislation that passed. The committee makes any minor edits needed to bring the legislation into harmony without changing its substance. For example, the Book of Discipline currently uses the phrase self-avowed practicing homosexual in several places, but at the 2019 Special General Conference, the traditional plan legislation used the phrase self-avowed homosexual. The committee determined that practicing should be added back into the phrase when updating the Book of Discipline with the approved legislation. The Committee on Courtesies and Privileges determines whether resolutions of commendation, appreciation, or prayer will be brought to General Conference. The committee also extends the courtesies of General Conference to other bodies, such as sending greetings to the meeting of another denomination's conference. Finally, the committee considers whether requests for privilege shall be heard. For example, the speech made by the Reverend Donna Pritchard of the Western Jurisdiction at the 2019 Special General Conference was a privilege granted by this committee. The Committee on Credentials works with the Secretary of the General Conference to review and approve the credentials and seating of delegates. For example, if questions arose about an annual conference's election of delegates, the committee would review the facts and requirements and determine whether the delegates could be seated with voice and/or vote. The Committee on the Journal approves the daily record of proceedings printed in the Daily Christian Advocate and reports on any errors and corrections. The Committee on Presiding Officers decides which bishop will preside over each plenary session of the General Conference. The presiding bishop chooses which delegates to call on, which can affect the direction of the discussion and what degree of perfecting each item undergoes. The number of speeches for and against a motion is limited, but the presiding officer chooses how many motions to amend they will recognize between speeches. Some bishops have a strong gift for presiding, and some can get flustered under the high pressure at General Conference. This committee often consults with the Committee on Agenda and Calendar about when key legislation is expected to come up for debate in plenary, so as to pair strong and fair presiders with controversial legislative items. The Committee on Reference works with the Secretary of the General Conference to review and approve the assignment of petitions, resolutions, and reports to legislative committees. The committee may also decide to withhold a submitted item if it is deemed improper or not meeting requirements. Legislation submitted after the deadline goes to this committee to consider approving as a late submission. The committee also reviews requests to move items from one legislative committee to another for action. Before the 2019 General Conference, the Committee on Reference evaluated all submitted petitions to determine which ones were in harmony with the special General Conference's call. The Committee on Reference must include at least one member from each legislative committee who will be the petition coordinator and advise the officers of their legislative committee. Now you have an overview of the work of the administrative committees at General Conference. Committee meetings are generally open, so if you are interested in the work that they do, visit one as an observer. I served on the Committee on Agenda and Calendar at the 2016 and 2019 General Conferences and will serve on it again at the 2020 General Conference. If you have questions about the administrative committees, leave a comment below. You may also subscribe to this channel to get notifications about my future videos. Thanks for watching.